Welcome, everybody. This is the very first episode of the Diamond Niner Gals podcast. My name is Nick. I'm here joined by my buddy Kevin.
What's up, Niner Nation?
There he is. And producer Brad is in the background making all of this technology work. You may know us from Diamond Niner Report. We are all over Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram with Diamond Niner Report. And we've been doing baseball for quite a long time, but now we are expanding into the softball realm. So we're excited about bringing this content to you. It's going to be a fun season. We do plan on this being a weekly episode, but this is the time to start here with opening week coming up in just a few days. And Kevin, what took us so long to get around to doing this anyway?
Well, since we have a new audience here, potentially, introduce myself. My name's Kevin Harward. Went to Charlotte, class of 2001, a long time ago. Nick and I, big Niner fans, obviously. Season ticket holders to baseball for a while, and basically, we started. Long story short, we started this Twitter account to kind of tweet out baseball scores, and realized we could use it to help market the program. And then eventually, Nick's brother-in-law knows how to use all this crazy podcast equipment, so we started a podcast. We started a baseball podcast, and it was just Nick and I and Brad, and turned into a video, a vlog, I guess you'd call it. And now we've gained some traction, so now we're expanding across the street to the Sioux to bring a little more content to Niner Nation.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. So basically, to recap that, you've got three Niners that have been all in on stick and ball for a while, been doing baseball. But Kevin, I gotta go ahead and let them in. I gotta go ahead and let them in on a little secret. We are learning college softball right now. Okay, that's what we're doing. In the world of college baseball, we're pretty good on that. We're pretty keyed in on that. We've been on a steep learning curve on college softball. So with that, we knew this show needed some softball expertise. So when you need some softball expertise, you go straight to the top. Let's go ahead and bring in, entering her fourth season as the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers, Coach Ashley Chastain. What's up, Coach?
What's up, Nick?
How are we doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
We're doing great. So you excited about this?
I'm really excited about this. As you alluded to a little bit ago, I think it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, that was the number one question, I think, is like, what took you so long to get around to doing this? But hey, better late than never, right? I mean, honestly,
That's
Coach,
right.
we've been kind of kicking this can around for at least 2 years, I think, right?
Yeah, I would say so. It really, I think it helps with the proximity of our stadiums, and it's been the last 2 years that I've slowly seen you and Kevin start walking over Phillips Road over here and taking a look at what we're doing over at the Sioux. So, we just really appreciate you guys taking the time, and really excited about the podcast. I know there's a lot of people that are really excited about it, including some of our team and our program. And so we just really appreciate you guys wanting to invest in the program, which is essentially what it is. It's an investment in Charlotte softball.
Well, I'll make this easy for you, Coach. And it's what you guys are doing over there at the Sioux makes it really easy to cross the street. That's what it boils down to. That what you guys have done since arriving here, I think you're winning ball games at about a 60% clip, and are responsible for several of the biggest seasons in program history. So, that makes it really easy to get over there. And we've had such a great time coming over and getting to know everybody. So this was a natural extension of it. So we're excited to get going. I think where we need to start, Coach, is you've been here for a while, but I think it would be good if we just spent some time letting people get to know you.
Okay.
I know nobody really likes talking about themselves, right? But when we've done these in the past, and even on the baseball side, I think we've interviewed every member of the staff, and it all started with when did you start playing baseball? So let's just flip that over, Coach, and start at the very beginning. And you have lived a softball life. You are living a softball life. So when did that life start?
Well, when I was 4, I guess you could say. I attribute me getting into t-ball really from my dad. My dad was a big time high school football player. He played a little bit of baseball, but really football was his love. And so he married my mom. They've been married for over 35 years, and they had 2 girls. So I'm the oldest of 2. I have a younger sister, Amanda. And so naturally, when my dad was a father of 2 girls, right away it was, what sports were we going to get into? So we just took a liking to t-ball. He threw us out on the t-ball field. I remember most teams I was on, between 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 years old. It was me and 1 or 2 other girls on the team. Played with mostly boys, and just learned how to play the game, and he was always right there with me. So I attribute my start really to my father. And then got a little bit older and transitioned to softball. So, 8U, they had rec softball. And so I think it was still coach pitch at that time. And played rec softball for a couple years, and then decided that I wanted to pitch. I don't know why I decided I wanted to pitch, but decided I wanted to pitch. And, my parents, they're just salt of the earth. They're incredible people. And, whatever me and my sister decided we wanted to do, they fully invested and, just helped provide any opportunity for us to be the best at it. And, so me and my dad, we started learning how to pitch, and had my first pitching coach I was probably in the ages of like 11, 12, 13, that time frame. Started to learn how to pitch. And, if my dad was here, or if you see him at the Sioux this spring, you probably could ask him about those days when I was learning how to pitch. I could throw really hard, but he had no idea where it was going. That's always what he jokes with me about. So,
but yeah, softball Ricky Vaughn.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, threw it as hard as I could. We had no idea where it was going most of the time. And, then just loved the game and started playing it competitively. I grew up south of Atlanta, about 30, 40 minutes south of Atlanta. And so got into kind of the travel ball scene in that area, which is, just really a hotbed for a lot of sports, but baseball, softball, there's a lot of really competitive travel teams in that area. So we didn't have to go far to find good teams to play for when I was in high school, and decided that I wanted to play in college, and my parents supported that. And actually started at a Division II school in Columbus, Georgia, at Columbus State, which is about 90 minutes from my house. I went to a small private Christian school south of Atlanta, Landmark Christian, and then went to Columbus State for a year and ended up transferring. These were the days before transferring was popular, or the transfer portal. Transferred to South Carolina for another 4 years, so 3 playing, and then a year of grad school with the Gamecocks, and really had my heart set on being a history teacher. So have a BA in history, and then kind of set myself up to do grad school in secondary education, social studies. So did my student teaching, wanted to be a high school history teacher, which kind of my love for history and teaching stemmed from a high school history teacher I had. His name was Wayne Brantley, who was also our football coach and baseball coach at Landmark, where I went to high school. And kind of got done with grad school and just didn't really want to give it up. Just felt like I wanted to stay close to the game. So I'm a teacher at heart, and most days I kind of feel like that's what I'm doing is teaching. Like, the field's the classroom, the students our classroom. But just never left the game, stayed in it. And going to South Carolina has provided me with a ton of opportunities, after I graduated and throughout my career. So I'm forever grateful for that. And then kind of started my coaching tree in 2012. I was the graduate assistant for South Carolina. And from then on, started coaching after that.
So, for those that don't know, I'm a history instructor at a community college. So I think that's why you and I get along so well, actually.
Yeah.
That background. So, I think, and with kids sports, right? It's typically, I think it's typically the parents kind of pushing they want some activity, they want to learn teamwork, they want to do, or they want them to, they enjoy sports themselves, so they kind of push their kids in that direction. Yeah. How old were you when it was, how old do you think you were when it was really your idea? No, this is my identity. This is, I want this for myself. Where do you think you crossed that threshold?
From the start, I mean, if you ask my mom, I've never in my life, never a day in my life done anything I didn't want to do, if you ask my mom. So from the start, I think I loved it. I did other things, piano lessons. My mom put me in pageants as a toddler, which that did not last very long. I did not like that very much. So that goes to show you, I mean, I put my foot down with her on that, when I was barely walking, and basically it was like, I'm not doing this. So my parents never, fortunately enough, my parents never pushed it on me, but I mean, I just looked forward to it. I really enjoyed it and had a lot of fun doing it. And like I said, there were other things that I did, like, piano. I did a little bit of dance as a younger kid, which also did not last very long. I played basketball in high school, and once I got super serious about travel ball in high school, then me and my parents had a conversation about, hey, like, probably not very good at basketball. I made the varsity team. I went to a really small private Christian school, but I made the varsity team, and I was the teammate that got into the game the last 30 seconds before the buzzer. That was me. But just really enjoyed being on another team, which was fun. So, but gave up basketball in high school because I knew it wasn't my love. It wasn't something I was going to pursue, at a really competitive level. And so softball was just always something I really enjoyed, really competitive. It was always kind of like my first love. So knew really early on. I think I've got some pictures I probably can find for one of these shows, of the T-ball days. I'll bring that out sometime soon.
Well, we're looking forward to see those.
Yeah.
So after you graduate, you were a grad assistant in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Then you had an interesting opportunity to coach in Germany. Talk a little bit about that experience for you.
Yeah. Well, I actually went overseas to play. That was the first priority. So in 2012, just like the baseball community, the softball community is super small. And so I just had been contacted, knew a couple people that are involved with international softball, and have been contacted to see if I'd be interested in going over and playing a season. A season over there is 3-4 months. And they're always looking for American pitchers and catchers. Just the sport isn't super developed in Germany, which is the country that I played in. And so I went over to play. And so I ended up kind of staying for almost 2 years. The summer, fall, winter of 2012, and then the full year of 23, I was over there. And while I was over there, the team that I played for, the Wesseling Vermins, the head coach of that team coached the German national team. And so when I was over there, he asked me after a couple months of living there if I would be interested in helping coach the national team, because they had some events that 2013 year. So they had the European Championship, just some big tournaments that the team was playing in, and he wanted my help to train their pitching staff. And so I took him up on it. I mean, I was over there just playing ball and, visited, I think, 9 countries when I was there. And, Nick knows as a history nerd, it's pretty cool to spend any time in Europe of any sort. So was just kind of enjoying myself traveling around, seeing a bunch of stuff and playing. So I agreed to help him coach the pitching staff for the German national team. And it was an awesome experience, just one that I'll never forget. And so that's kind of how that happened. So I went over there to play. And then the coaching thing was a byproduct of some of the connections and relationships I created once I was there.
What was the name of that team?
The Wesseling Vermins. In German, a W is pronounced like a V in English, so it starts with a W. Mm-hmm.
So, how much German did you pick up? Or
I knew you were going to go down this road. A lot, actually. I took a language class. Like I said, I was over there just training and playing ball. All of my teammates were a lot older, so they're in their 20s and 30s and had jobs and careers. And so playing on our team was secondary to them because they didn't make a lot of money doing it. And so they would all work during the day. And so I had to find stuff to do during the day while they were at work before we had practice. And so I did take a language class. I think, I'd get up in the morning in my little apartment and I'd go to the language class at like 9 a.m. It was a couple hours and it was just a whole gamut of people from all across Europe wanting to learn German for various reasons. I think I was the only American in the class. So I did learn a pretty significant amount of German and I was able to speak it well and communicate and get myself around while I lived over there. But that was over 10 years ago. So don't ask me to say anything now because, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I've lost a lot of it over the course of my coaching career since I've been back in the States.
We wouldn't know that you weren't doing it properly anyway. So it wouldn't matter. So now,
Vermin, I will say,
go ahead.
I will say full circle for me on the German. This is a kind of a side story, but my sister, Amanda, who I mentioned earlier is a little bit younger than me. She married a German guy about 2 years ago, and they just had their first baby, my first niece, Audrey. And so Joe is full German. He's from Germany. He's from pretty close to where I lived. And so it's really cool for me when his family comes over from Germany over here to the States, like when they got married to their wedding and when they had Audrey a few months ago. And I'm around them and I hear them speak. It's so much easier for me to speak a word or speak a sentence because I'm around them. And it's like, it kind of comes back to me really fast. But if I'm just on my own trying to speak it, it's not very good anymore.
So we're going to look this up later. Do they have gear available online? I mean,
I don't know. That's a great question.
What if I show up at the Sioux wearing a Vermin's t-shirt or something? I mean,
I probably have one I can give you, but they're big on Facebook. They're big on Facebook, so you might be able to find something on Facebook, but I don't know if they'll ship internationally. But it was a wonderful club
or something. I don't know.
It was a wonderful club full of just the best people. It was a really, really cool experience. And honestly, we won the German championship both years I was there. The Deutsche Meister. There you go. There's your German.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I'll bring it back to the States here.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
You went to college at Charleston as an assistant back in the state of South Carolina, which is a beautiful place to live.
Yeah.
Then up to Michigan State as an assistant coach. And then prior to Charlotte, you were at Ole Miss as an assistant. Talk a bit about your journey, different levels of college softball, and what kind of brought you down the road to Charlotte.
Yeah, so when I was moving back from Germany, I was coming back to the States. It was a weird time because it was the middle of the fall. And so you guys know in our business, a lot of change happens in the summer. So I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. Excuse me. I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. I had plans to substitute teach, for the remainder of that semester and through the spring until I could find the coaching job that I wanted. In my mind, it was the next summer of 2014. Yeah, 2014. But you guys know how this stuff goes. I mean, the opportunity came my way, and I was super excited about it. So I got hired at College of Charleston. I did my interview in Germany, actually. I was there for like another week, and Linda Califatis, who had gotten the job at College of Charleston that August or September. And she was a long-time head coach at Ohio State, had been really successful at Ohio State for 20-something years, and had gotten the College of Charleston job, needed a pitching coach. And I think it had just taken her a little bit of time to move down to Charleston and get everything off the ground. And so I interviewed in Germany over the phone. She offered me the job on the phone, first time we talked. And I accepted it. And then I called my mom, from Germany. I'm like, hey, she's like, how was the job interview? And I was like, well, she offered it to me and I took it, first call. It was just kind of one of those things that was meant to be. And Kevin, you're right about Charleston. It is a fantastic place to live. And I didn't know that at the time, but I spent 3 seasons there, 3 years. And I mean, starting your career in paradise, most people, end and retire in paradise. Well, I decided to start my career in paradise in Charleston, South Carolina. And it was a wonderful 3 years, just all the way around. I learned so much. And, I think kind of got my footing as a young coach at the time. I mean, I was in my mid-20s at that point and hadn't really ever had real responsibility. I mean, as a graduate assistant, you're just a doer of all. Like, you just do, and you just kind of don't ask questions, and you absorb and learn as much as you can. You do all the work no one wants to do. And then at Charleston, I was the pitching coach, so I had real responsibility. And Linda was great because she wasn't a micromanager. She, let me mess up. She let me, go for it. Any idea I ever had. I mean, she just was really supportive in that way. So I owe so much of just a stellar start personally and emotionally to the college coaching career, which is really difficult on a lot of aspects. It's really awesome, but there's hard aspects to it. And I just credit just such a stellar start as a young coach to her, and how she, just let me be myself and let me just, get creative and do my thing without having to feel like she was looking over my shoulder all the time. And had some really great pitchers there, and the team had some success the few years prior to us being there. So it was fun. I think the first season, which seems, that was a decade ago, but we won 40 games that first year in the 2014 season, had some really good players, and it was a lot of fun. So I was there for 3 seasons and wasn't looking to leave, but got a call from Jackie Joseph, who was really good friends with Linda Califatis. Again, the softball coaching world is so tight-knit. Jackie Joseph at Michigan State in the Big Ten was really good friends with Bev Smith, who I played for a year at South Carolina. And she was really good friends with Linda Califatis, my current boss at the time. And so that's kind of how the Michigan State thing happened. As I alluded to earlier, I'm from Atlanta. I went to a school in Georgia and then South Carolina, and was living at the beach in Charleston. So Michigan was not on my radar. Never did I ever think I would ever live in the Mitten.
It's not Charleston.
It's not. It's not. It's so different. It was an awesome place to live. I will be completely honest and transparent. The snow was really tough. It's a whole different way of life that you don't know how to handle if you've never really lived in that climate before. So, covered parking is a premium, shoveling snow. I learned how to do all of that stuff. And it was a challenge, but I really liked the school. The institution it's an amazing place. The Big Ten is obviously a great conference, and it was definitely a step in the right direction for me personally, in my career. So it was definitely, I would say, a career move. It wasn't, something personally that I just sought out and said, oh, I want to live in Michigan. That's the job for me. I thought it was the right thing to do for my career. So it was definitely a career move, and loved the Mitten is gorgeous. It's the summers, the falls. It was really, really kind of fun exploring that whole state. I'd never lived in the Midwest before, obviously. So it was awesome. And I didn't plan to be there only for, essentially it was a year and a half, a little bit longer than that. I had plans to stay longer and was really enjoying my staff and our coaching staff, the pitching staff, the team, everyone at Michigan State. I was really enjoying my time there. And my first year, we won 34 games there. We beat Michigan in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. We had done some things with the program to kind of move it in the right direction that year. I was coaching with Kayla Jackson, who was one of my teammates at South Carolina. And so it was a great time of life, and was not looking to leave. And then randomly my phone rings at the end of fall ball again. So middle of fall, not a great time to make a move for anyone. And got a call from Mike Smith at Ole Miss. And, the SEC for softball, as a lot of sports, it kind of is, it's leading the charge in so many ways: facilities, funding, resources. It's just it's a really great conference. It's a really great conference to be an assistant coach in. And so Mike called me, and I went down and interviewed, and that was just really emotional and really hard, because I, again, thought it was the right career move for me. It was terrible timing, and it was really hard to leave Michigan State in the middle of the fall. It was right at the end of fall ball. But I knew in my heart that it was probably the right career thing for me to do. Ole Miss had come off of a 17 season where they won the SEC tournament. They had gone to a super regional at UCLA with Caitlin Lee leading the charge, kind of like the Cinderella of college softball from the 2017 season, the Cinderella team. And so there was a lot of media, there was a lot of hype around the program. So I went down and interviewed, felt like it was the right move for me. Oxford, Mississippi is a special place. It is a magical town and very, very small. But I was from a small town, and it was in the South. It was a lot closer to my family, which really attracted me to the job personally. And so I took the job in the middle of October, end of October of 17, and went to Ole Miss. And our team, we had a really good team and really good pitchers, and I kind of stepped into that role and, just tried to be the best that I could be that year. And then year two, where you can start with your own staff for the full year, it was a little bit different, which in a good way, kind of was able to implement some of my own philosophies and stuff from the start with that staff in the 18-19 season. Went to Arizona State Regional in 18 with Ole Miss. And then in 19, we had a 1-2. We had a 1 and a 2 arm in the SEC that was really good. Brittany Finney and Molly Jacobson, who was a JUCO transfer that we had gotten at Ole Miss, and had a stellar year, a really fun year. Ended up going back to a super regional at Arizona. And that's when I first, Nick, you alluded earlier about, how did Charlotte happen? And that was the first time I'd heard from Charlotte. Was actually, we were preparing to go. Let's think about that. We hosted a regional, and right at the end of our regional host, we beat Lafayette. It was like a packed weekend. It was really close games. It was a lot of fun. We ended up winning the regional, and Charlotte was making a change. And that's when I first heard from Charlotte. And they were so respectful of the fact that we were still in season. And so Mike reached out to our administrator, Lynette Johnson, who then told Mike Smith, my boss at the time, that, Charlotte had some interest in me being their next head coach. And I had known for years that I wanted to be a head coach. I think if you ask my mother, Renee, if she knew I was going to be a head coach when I was like 6 or 7, she probably would have said, yeah, like it was in her then. Like she just, likes to be the one that tells everyone what to do. No, I'm just kidding. But Lynette mentioned to me, hey, Charlotte's interested in talking to you about their new head coaching or their head coaching position that just came open. And we all agreed that I wasn't going to talk to Charlotte until our season was over at Ole Miss. We were on a super regional run, didn't want the distraction. And I was just so invested in Brittany Finney and Molly Jacobson and that pitching staff and getting that team to the College World Series. So we went to Tucson and we got beat by Arizona. And as soon as we got back from the super regional to Oxford, Mississippi, that was when the conversation really started. So picked up the phone, talked to Mike Hill. I remember exactly where I was sitting, actually, outside my office on this little bench looking at our stadium at Ole Miss, and had a great conversation with Mike. Not too long after that, had a great conversation with Chris Thomason, who is our sport administrator here at Charlotte, and just a fantastic support system and resource for this program. And a couple days later, came to Charlotte. So flew in, interviewed, and really everything happened really fast after that. So within a matter of weeks, had moved to Charlotte. Gosh, you guys are going to get a kick out of this story. Moved to Charlotte and was living in Belk dorm. So, yeah. I lived in Belk dorm, which is where our freshmen at the time, that's where they lived. That's where the previous coaching staff had set them up to live. So that all of that was obviously, it was the summer. So I couldn't change any of that. It's a really nice building, great apartments. But I was going to buy a house. I was in the middle of the transition. I was a one-man show at the time because I had not hired any staff. And my first weekend after I got the job, I went recruiting. And so just basically packed my life up in Oxford, threw it in the car, and came to Charlotte, all in, ready to go, and was living in Belk dorm. I lived in Belk dorm for, I think, almost a month. And it was a great way to get to know campus, which in hindsight was really cool.
Back in college.
I was ready to it was like, let's just go back and live these days. But yeah, so enough about that. But yeah, lived in Belk dorm for a little bit. And then kind of the rest is history. The rest is history. Yeah.
No, I got to tell you something. You are so good at this. I keep asking questions, but only in my head, and you just keep answering them. You're so fantastic at this. I told you, I admitted beforehand that we came on that doing this first softball podcast was a little nervous, and this is the most relaxed I've ever been. This is great.
Oh, well, I'm glad. You get me on a roll. My team knows this about me. Sometimes my post-practice talks or my post-game talks get a little winded. My cue for, hey, it's time to wrap this up, I make eye contact with Lexi Wagner, who's a senior on our team, our starting center fielder. And in our circle that we end every day, everyone stands in the same place every single day. We're very routine, right? And so whenever it's like, okay, you need to end it, I look at Lexi Wagner and just her face tells me everything I need to know of like, okay, you've said enough.
just the 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah. She's like, okay, we get the point.
So let me back up a little bit here. You've covered a lot of ground. I'm curious. So no, that's great. I'm just curious when you made that transition from playing to coaching.
Yeah.
How hesitant were you? Was there a little bit of, because I mean, kind of, when you hang up the spikes, you've kind of hung them up, right? So how hesitant were you?
I don't know if I was really hesitant. I think I was really unique in, personally, I always felt like I was never supposed to be at South Carolina, if that makes sense. And so like the opportunity presented itself when I wanted to leave my first school, and and the opportunity came about for me to go to South Carolina and be a Gamecock. And so like, I just held so tightly to that because I never imagined that that was going to be my reality. And so when that happened, like for me, it was never about my own career at that point. Like, and you know, and for us, like we don't have a huge professional scene. We do have some avenue to play professionally, but it's not the same avenue as the MLB draft per se at this point in our sport. So I just kind of set my eyes on either teaching or coaching like right away. I guess in my mind at the time that I was ending my career, I felt like I was going to possibly be a high school coach and a high school history teacher. And I was ecstatic about that. And so I remember my last game, like I remember my career ending, and I just don't ever remember being hesitant. I just really remember being really excited, like super pumped. Like, okay, what am I going to do next? You know, what does the next step look like? And then I had the opportunity to be the GA and stay on another year. And so I was really excited. I don't know if I was ever really hesitant. I mean, I think you're sad, like you have some sad emotions whenever your own personal playing career is ended. But I don't think I stayed sad very long. I think I was ready to see what life, like how life unfolded for me over the course of my 20s. And, you know, and here we are now in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Do you have just right off the top of your head, do you have like a favorite memory as a player?
Favorite memory as a player.
Like pitchers can usually tell you like the best game they ever pitched.
I mean, I remember I threw a shutout against Stony Brook once. That was really cool. Coach Smith, that was my senior year. Coach Smith gave me a ball after that had, you know, the score on it. And I've always kept that and kind of cherished that close. I was a PO, like I was a pitcher only. I hit a little bit in travel ball and some in high school, but like on a really competitive level, like I didn't want any part of hitting. And, you know, kind of the funny things that I remember, my first coach at South Carolina was the Hall of Famer Joyce Compton. And she was super old school, like really tough on us, just like really hard nosed. And I just remember like she was sometimes when we would hit, like she wouldn't even let me in the cage. She was like, go to the bullpen. You know, like you're not allowed in the cage right now. So I was just such a PO. But yeah, I just remember being so proud to wear the uniform and competing in the SEC and all the opponents and the matchups. And at a time where the SEC isn't what it was, it wasn't what it is now, as far as television and everything like that. It was like on the forefront of that. So it was just like an exciting time to be a part of that conference because it was kind of starting to really escalate.
Well, I think I know how you're going to answer this because you kind of alluded to it earlier. But at what point, as you're getting your coaching career started, did it really sink in that, yeah, this is my path. It's going to work. You know, at the point where you're kind of thinking, well, maybe I'll coach in high school and teach history, and then your career gets started. But at a certain point, right, you had to realize like, yeah, that's not going to happen. This college coaching thing's going to work out for me.
Yeah, I would say at College of Charleston, like we discussed earlier, it was a fantastic place to start your career and to live. I mean, I lived 10 minutes from the beach and, you know, I was learning how to recruit and I was learning how to develop a pitching staff and, you know, just loved everything about being in Charleston at CFC, in that program. Linda Califatis, my first boss, like I just kind of like went 2 feet in right away and I've never really looked back. Like I've always really felt like that this is what I was meant to do. Really since I took that College of Charleston job. It didn't take long for me to realize that.
So when you started hearing from Charlotte, what did you know? What did you know about Charlotte, about the university, about our program, any of that? What did you know?
Well, you know, it's funny you asked that because I knew I wanted to be head coach, and a lot of my mentors, and I had a few opportunities to be head coaches prior to the Charlotte job, actually, within, the about 12, 24 months prior to coming here. But I had a lot of mentors that just told me, like, listen, like, your first head coaching job, it either makes or breaks you. Like, it sets you up. Like, there's so many things that need to be in place where you feel like you can really win at a place. And so I didn't know much about the university itself. I remember playing here as a player at South Carolina. And it was a very vague memory. We came up to Charlotte on a midweek, like a Wednesday, and we played here. And so I had a vague picture in my head of the field. I remember kind of campus in the background. But then when I came here, it kind of all connected. It looked a little bit different than I remembered. Obviously, that was over 10 years ago. That was probably 2009. And so this place, you guys know, this place has changed so much over the last 10, 15 years as far as what campus looks like. And so it was very different than I remember in my head. But what I did know was that it was Charlotte, North Carolina. And what I did know was that it was a place that I felt like I could bring the right people to. And to my core, that's how we've built the program up to this point, and it's how we will continue to build the program up to this point. Of it's all about the people. And if you can bring the right people to Charlotte, North Carolina, I felt like this was a place that we could really build into a softball powerhouse, like a product, like a program that people wanted to be a part of, which was my vision from the start, and I didn't care how long it was going to take. I wanted it to happen right away, but I'm like, I want this to be a program that people want to be a part of, from recruiting, from parents, from staff, from, just everyone involved with our program. I wanted people to come to Charlotte, North Carolina and feel like you could win here. And because I felt that on my interview with Mike and with CT, and just the vision that they had for the program. And at the time, it was just a vision. I mean, we didn't have, the new video board that I'm looking at right now outside my office. The outfield wall wasn't padded. The indoor hitting facility had just opened its doors when they hired me. And so it was like, hey, this is what we want it to be. This is what we think it could be. And here's some things that we're doing now and some plans we have for the future. And we want you to lead us. And they laid the vision out, and credit to them. They did such a good job. Like, I really bought into the vision myself, and then felt like I could take that vision, make it my own, and then get other people to believe in it. And like I keep saying, but Charlotte, North Carolina, who doesn't want to live in Charlotte, North Carolina? It's an awesome place. And it's surrounded by a lot of really great talent, which we have really tried to focus on in our recruiting process the last 4 years. So that was just kind of my feel on it. It was a place that I felt like you could win a lot of softball games and build something really special, like, from the start.
So you talked about, go ahead, Kevin, go ahead.
Coach, I'm going to take you back to Belk Dorm here. So you've just been hired.
Yeah.
You said you're a one-man show. Take us through building your staff. I know you talked about we want to bring a winning program to Charlotte. Talk about building your staff as a new head coach.
Yeah. I think I wanted to bring people in that first and foremost I could trust, and that, when you embark on a mission and a journey such as building Charlotte softball, I felt like who was to my left and to my right, that was right off the bat the most important decisions that I was going to make. And so I'm pitching. I knew I had pitching covered. And so I knew I needed a hitting person, because, as I alluded to, even as a player, like, hitting's just never been my passion. And I'm in the business of getting hitters out, and I'm not in the business of developing hitters. So knew I needed a hitting coach. So that was kind of high on the priority list. I knew that I could do the recruiting for the first couple years, with eventually wanting to pass and transition that along to a recruiting coordinator on staff. But I knew I had that covered just in the work that I had done at Ole Miss and Michigan State and College Charleston. That I had a good foundation of recruiting. So it was about great people I could trust, an offensive person, And so I decided at the time, we were coming off the super regional run in Tucson with Ole Miss in 19. I had a GA with on our staff, Anthony Oresco, and he was with me at Ole Miss, and he was in the bullpen with me every day. And he played men's fast pitch, grew up in the Boston area. His dad's in USA men's fast pitch. He was in men's fast pitch. He had been at Oregon with Mike White, who, if you know anything about college softball, I mean, that's, you know, the pinnacle of college softball. And Oregon at the time, they had been to World Series. So Anthony Oresco came from Oregon as an undergrad to Ole Miss as a grad. And I had worked with him for a year at Ole Miss. And so I brought him with me because he knew how I operated. He knew how I operated the bullpen. I could trust him. We had been around each other a lot. So that was an easy decision for me. I knew he wasn't my offensive person, so I hadn't checked that box yet. So Anthony was kind of the first hire, and Anthony was right out of grad school at the time. I mean, he was just going to pounce on, you know, a great opportunity that it didn't matter where it was. I mean, he didn't care about location. He was just like, let's pack the car and go build it. I don't care where it is. Luckily, it was in Charlotte. So asked him to come with me. And then Jody Davidson, who is still on my staff as our current recruiting coordinator, catching and outfield coach here now, but he came as our volunteer. So Jody Davidson was our director of ops at Ole Miss. He had been at Ole Miss for 6 years with the softball program, went to Ole Miss. And Jody was a really good friend of mine, someone that I could trust, someone that he was just like a brother to me, to be honest. He still is. And he wanted to get into coaching. He'd been in ops for a really long time, been around the game at a really high level, been to regionals and super regionals as an ops person. And when you're that close to a program, you know how it goes. And so I asked Jody to move to Charlotte, take a leap of faith, be the volunteer, run my camp business. And he agreed to that. It took him like 2 months. Don't tell him I said that. I'm just kidding. It took him like 2 months. Yes. He agreed to come to Charlotte with me by the end of that summer. And so the last piece was the offensive piece. So I picked up the phone and I was calling, you know, all my people like, hey, like I need an offensive person. Who you got? So made a list, and Bev Smith at the time from South Carolina, who is a mentor and a dear friend of mine, and I played for her at South Carolina. She had Taylor White as her volunteer, and Taylor had been their volunteer for the 19 season, had been with them for the fall of 18 and spring of 19. And then in the spring of 18 had graduated from UNC with Donna Papa from Taylorsville, North Carolina, which is an hour and a half up, you know, kind of near the Statesville area. You guys probably know where that is. Mm-hmm. And Taylor actually had just had hip surgery that summer. And I had asked her to come on an interview to Charlotte. Hey, come up, spend the day with me. Let me show you around campus. You know, I just want to talk to you about being our hitting coach. And she was like, well, I'd love to. But I just had surgery and I can't drive. So I was like, hey, no problem. I'll come down to you. So drove to Columbia, South Carolina, which obviously I know very well. We went to dinner. I told her everything that I knew about the program. I told her why I took the job. I told her, you know, what I thought about it. I was like, hey, run the offense. It's completely yours. You know, I need someone to just like take it by the horns and just run with it. And she agreed. And, you know, for her, this was kind of coming back home. I mean, she's an hour and a half from her parents who are big supporters of our program. They come to all of our games and had gone to UNC. So just knew a lot about North Carolina, knew a lot about Charlotte area. Like it just checked so many boxes. But most importantly, Taylor is like the best person ever. And she has been such a confidant for me and, you know, such a friend and such a colleague, and has really like hand in hand built this program with me over the past 4 years. And so I'm so grateful for that dinner in Columbia where she agreed to be our hitting coach. You know, little did we know what that would turn into. She is now our associate head coach. and director of on-campus recruiting, director of transfer portal recruiting, and really, honestly, for our team, just, I mean, she's their rock star. I mean, you talk to anybody, Vanoy, Hoffler, Chansey, Wagner, Garrett, Devereaux, you talk to any of those guys and they just sing her praises 24/7, and she deserves every ounce of it. She's fantastic. So by the end of that summer, that's kind of how the staff evolved. Since then, Anthony wanted to do pitching full time, and I was just not in a place where I felt like I could do that personally. And he got a great opportunity to go to Lamar and be the full-time pitching coach there 2 summers ago, and felt like that was the right thing for his career because he wanted to do pitching completely on his own. And so he went there, and currently we have CJ Layton in our third assistant role, and he came from Kentucky. Rachel Lawson told me last summer, like, hey, if I could hire him, I would. And that's all she had to say. And so CJ moved to Charlotte and has just been dynamite. And he'll be a difference maker for us this season. I mean, he's just fantastic and been such a great add to the program. So that's the current staff right now.
So as we're kind of getting towards the back end here, we need to kind of take a turn towards this season because you guys are opening up the season on Thursday at the Sioux against South Carolina. So you're coming full circle yet again, opening up with South Carolina. By way of doing that, why don't you talk a little bit about just the approach that you and the staff have taken to roster construction, because it's been really impressive to watch. You guys have definitely been aggressive on the recruiting trail, and you've got a definite philosophy in the way you've constructed your roster.
Yeah. From the start, there were so many things that we wanted to implement and change in the program, but from day one, we focused on the players. I mean, if you don't have good players, you don't stand a chance. So it didn't matter all these other things that I wanted to do with the program. Number one priority was getting the right players here. And to be honest, I mean, we had several players here when I took it over that, your Anna Devereaux, Imani Rochelle, who graduated last year, Bailey Vanoy, those players were here. They were just ready to take the next step. And a credit to them, especially Vanoy and Devereaux, who are seniors this year for their last campaign. I mean, they've been so good to me. Like, I just can't explain it. They've just embraced everything that we've ever done, and essentially built the culture that I dreamed of driving to Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, they're the ones that execute those things every day. But so we had a couple core players that, wanted to stay, they wanted to build it. And then right away we went to the transfer portal, which at that time was like infant. I mean, it was brand new. It was just so experimental, I guess you could say, but we felt like it was a way for us to get a higher caliber, talented player than we would out of high school. I mean, essentially. So we recruited some high school players, but it was really late. And, we knew that right away, if we wanted to be competitive in Conference USA and in our non-conference schedule, that we needed some players with experience. And so we brought some players in with experience that could play the game, but essentially just needed to be happier, like to love the game again, to, enjoy what we were doing, and just to want to be a part of a program that just embraced them. And so we did that with a lot of players in the transfer portal, and we'll continue to do that. Now that we've kind of gotten into this segment of, the roster, we were able to bring in freshmen like Ella Chansey, who was a top 25 freshman finalist nationally last year. Lexi Winters down from Columbia, South Carolina, who you're going to see on the field every day for us this spring. So now we've gotten into a place where we can bring in really great high school players paired with some really awesome transfers. And it's just honestly been such a great blend. It's been a great blend. And I am really thankful to every single player that has put on the uniform since I've been here, whether they were returning from the previous staff 4 years ago, and they stayed on and they believed in what I had to say. A transfer that took a chance on us. I mean, Courtney Grimion, who you know graduated last year, she was from Lafayette, who we played in the regional at Ole Miss in 19. You know, she said yes to being a Niner without even visiting campus during COVID. I mean, I owe so much to her for making that commitment to us, because she helped take our program to the next level. And so it's just been a perfect blend of all of that. And I'm just so thankful to every player that has put on the uniform since I've been here in their own journey to get here, whether it was a freshman, a transfer, they were here before. I mean, it's just been awesome. So the roster continues to build. I mean, I think we're really excited about our freshman classes these next couple years. We've recruited a lot of really great North Carolina players that I think you guys are going to be super proud of as North Carolinians. But then we recruit coast to coast. So, I mean, we're going to have powerful transfers every single year. I think that's a whole nother channel of the program. I mean, this year, Sam Gress, Cass Crupitt, like those guys are going to have a big impact on what we're doing. Gigi Barefoot from Campbell, she's going to have a big impact on this team. And so we've just embraced that there's a place for it all. There's a place for the transfer portal. There's a place for a freshman player. There was a place for the players that returned and stayed with the program and honored it. So it's been awesome. I mean, that's kind of been our take on it. We just really felt like from the beginning, like we need to focus on getting the right players and really good people in the program.
You can kind of see how with your high school recruiting, you guys, and I think the right word is infiltrated. You guys have infiltrated several really successful travel ball programs, because when you look at the players you're bringing in, it's a couple of key programs that you guys are really well connected with.
Yeah. I mean, Team NC is a really great program in this area. We've recruited their teams heavily and have some of their best athletes coming to wear, the Niner uniform. And we're really excited about them. You'll see some of those guys next year and the 24 class. I mean, we recruit for years out. So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, like it's such a great place. And, the university has so much to offer and the campus is so gorgeous. I mean, we've yet brought someone on campus and they were like, oh, we don't really like this campus. I mean, everybody we bring on campus just raves about it. The parents, the grandparents, aunts, uncles, the siblings. We've got some recruits that their siblings who aren't even athletes now want to come to Charlotte. It's just, they come on these recruiting trips and they fall in love with everything too. Right. So yeah, we've just had a lot of success with players in the region that, hey, like Charlotte's a great place. And now they get an inside look at the program, where the program is and the vision that we have for it. And so they bring both of those things together. And we've been, we're really excited just where we're at recruiting. And Jody and Taylor have kind of hedged that. I can't take credit for it. And I try not to mess it up. They tell me that all the time. They're like, hey, try not to mess this up. And I'm like, I'll do my best. So
well, you guys have been doing pretty good. It looks like.
Thank you.
You look at the roster we've got in front of us here. Talk about your pitching staff a little bit. We're a few days away from opening it up. The big, I guess, Charlotte Invitational is this weekend.
Yes.
Give us a little overview of your pitching staff and how it looks winding down the preseason.
We've got 6 arms on staff, which is, I know, very different than across the street there at the Hayes. We have 6 arms. And this year, we have 3 additions. So of the 6, 3 are new to this team this year. I've already talked a little bit about Gigi Barefoot. Gigi came from Campbell. She's from the Wake Forest area. She's got 2 years of eligibility left. So she's got this season with us and next. Gigi has had a ton of success already in her career. And so adding her to our staff and our team this year, I felt like was us taking the next step. I mean, she's thrown in a regional. She's been in a regional. She knows what that feels like. Big South player of the year, pitcher of the year. I mean, she's just like, she's primed. I mean, we've just really, since she's stepped foot on campus, we've worked on her mentality. We've tried to sharpen her stuff up as much as we can. But, she's somebody that just came in a really good place, and really excited about seeing her throw this year. Sam Gress was our NC State transfer. Sam is not a PO, so Sam can play other positions and she can hit for herself. And so she's just an all-around great addition to the program, and she's fire. I mean, she's going to be one when you come to the Sioux and she's pitching. It's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, she has so much energy in the circle, and she just bleeds that out to the defense. I mean, she's going to be one that you love watching pitch. And she's got really great stuff. And then our true freshman pitcher this year was Lena Elkins from Nitro, West Virginia. And she's got a big future for us. I mean, Lena's got a lot of really great stuff. She throws vertically. She's a great changeup. And so for her this year as a freshman, I expect her to get a lot of opportunities. And it's just been so cool watching her learn the game at this level, and being her head coach and a pitching coach, and watching her mature on and off the field, and kind of learn how to be on her own and learn how to pitch at this level against a really great offense and inter squads. So really excited about her. And then we're returning Maddie Wright, who has been with us. This is year 4 and has got one more year of eligibility due to COVID. But Maddie's kind of like our most experienced veteran at this point. She's kind of the rock and the foundation of our pitching staff right now, and she's awesome. Has, like I said, has pitched a ton of innings for us already in her career. And then you've got Amelia Weirchuk, who this is year 2 for us. With her, she transferred from Duke. She started their program up at Duke back 5 years ago, and was a really great pitcher for them earlier in her career, and is actually currently applying for PhD programs, and really, really smart person, and adds a lot to our pitching staff. And then we got Brooke Bowling, who was a true freshman last year, but tore her ACL in the off season, tragically. And so this will be her freshman campaign all over again, since she didn't get to throw. So she's one. Her and Lena are 2 that are not going to be very scoutable by opponents. There's just not a lot of information or video on them here in the early season, because both of those guys will hit the field for the first time. But it takes a staff. I mean, you guys know, in the baseball world, it takes a staff to win at a really high level. We don't have the pitch count constraints that baseball necessarily has, but it still takes a staff. And we have starters, we have relievers, we have closers. And so you're just going to all season see a really nice blend of the 6 of them. They're all very different. They bring something to the table. And they work really well together. So we've worked for, 6-7 months now on making sure all 6 of them are ready to go. And here we are in 3 days.
Yeah, I think we saw at least 3 throw yesterday when we were over at the Sioux for a little bit. Very impressive, all 3 of them.
Thank you.
So when you're talking about your offense, obviously that discussion starts with Bailey Vinoy or Boo. But where do we go? Where do we go after Boo? What can we look for offensively behind Boo?
I'm really excited about Cass Krupet. I recruited her at College of Charleston back in 2015, and she went to Baylor first, and then she went to South Carolina, and now she's finishing her career with us. So we are full circle with Cass Krupet. But you're going to see her at first base this year, but you're going to feel her in the lineup. I mean, I think with what we lost offensively last year with Stacey Payton and Courtney Grimion and everything that they did for our order, I think Cass is going to be able to step in and really take on that role. Just in speaking with Coach White, the Vinoy Krupet combination, I think, is going to be really, really good for our lineup. So you'll probably see them hit back to back a lot of days. Ella Chansey's returning and better than ever. She's had such a good preseason and such a good fall season. So I'm really excited for her sophomore season. She'll be our everyday third baseman and has really earned that role. And the thing about Ella that people might not know, because you're not with us every day, is that she doesn't take anything for granted. She works I mean, she works her butt off 24/7. And that's why she is as good as she is. But every single day you'll come to the yard and see her in the cage. I mean, she's constantly working. So I'm just really excited because I believe that she's going to reap the reward of all of that work this year, as she did last year too. So, then we're returning players like Kaya Garrett, who had a stellar preseason at the plate for us, who's just crushing balls. Someone hit our new video board the other day. I was in the bullpen, so I'm not quite sure who it was, but it was probably either Kaya or Cass that hit the video board. My heart sank a little bit when it happened, but it's okay.
Is something going to go up in front of that, or does it just roll like that?
It has a net in front of it.
Okay. Well, yeah. We almost got hit by a home run ball yesterday when we were walking over to the Hayes. I don't know who hit it, but it bounced across the road right in front of us pretty much.
It was at the base of the trees and at the outfield wall.
Yeah, we hit balls that hit the bullpen fence, the home bullpen fence over at the Hayes. Every time we take BP on the field, that happens. And, it's kind of become an internal program joke. The Niner Transit is really hot down Phillips Road. Every couple of minutes we've gotten another one coming. So we hit the Niner Transit pretty often.
Do you really?
Oh yeah. So I'm just waiting for the phone call from Chancellor Gaber about busting a window, or Mike Hill busting a window in the Niner Transit during BP, because I can't believe we haven't busted a window yet, but we do hit the top of the bus very often. Yeah.
If Mike calls, it'll be to congratulate you.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have too much of a problem with it. We might have to talk about putting a net up out there or something.
just put some warning signs up, and it's travel at your own risk. Travel at your own risk through this passage.
It's kind of been cool because we get so much foot traffic right here. I mean, you guys know, like with the normal, the student population, people just going to and from their car in class. And we get so many people that pick up our home run balls and they'll bring them over to the field, and then they'll stand there and watch us practice for 15 minutes. And so that's one thing I love about the Sioux is just how centralized and just the middle of campus we are here. We just get so much interaction with the Charlotte community, which, I think that's one of the best parts, about being right here at the Sioux.
So we'll be at the Sioux on Thursday night, starting at 6 for the season opener against South Carolina. But not just that, we've got a whole slate of games. You guys are hosting the Charlotte Invitational, and you guys have games all weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one. Softball preseason tournaments. We typically play 5, sometimes 4, most of the time 5 games on the weekend.
So let's see. Look, you got South Carolina, Miami of Ohio, Campbell, ETSU, and then South Carolina again. So that I'm not trying to start anything here, but that Campbell game could be interesting. I mean, if Gigi gets to face Campbell, right?
Yes. Yeah, whether she ends up getting the call for that specific game or not, she's going to be so ready for that game, whether it's from the dugout or, as a reliever. I'm not so sure she'll start that one, but she's going to be ready no matter who's throwing that game for the Campbell matchup.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fun weekend. And I did take a sneak peek at the weather. It looks pretty good. Yeah. So everything looks pretty good right now. So maybe even, and I don't want to jinx this, but maybe even some temperatures that start with the number 6.
What a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know these first couple weeks of season, we kind of just hold our breath for some good temperatures until we get into March and it actually feels like spring. But when I've been peeping at the weather, you can't really trust it till it's like 2 days out. I know there's a little bit of rain in the forecast, and we'll have a plan for that, when that comes. But I am most excited about the temperatures I'm seeing as well.
Yeah. I think the coldest I've ever been maybe in my entire life was the App State home series last year at baseball, because it was the perfect combination of cold and windy.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before I got thawed out after that one.
remember our first year, it was the COVID year, so 2020, we played app to start, and it was actually snowing in the air during the game. It was
Yeah.
brutal.
Let's
Something about App State.
think happy thoughts. Let's think warm thoughts. So we got a good weekend of hopefully some nice spring weather.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to getting out to the Sioux. It's a great time. I really enjoy the product you guys put on the field. It's exciting, and it seems like a good brand of softball. I don't watch much outside of the Sioux, but it is exciting to me. Um,
Thank you. We've got a lot of great opponents coming in here this year, so I would just encourage everyone to come out all season long. And even if you're not a big softball fan or you haven't seen a lot of softball, we're going to draw in a lot of really good programs and respected programs nationally in our games. So you'll be able to catch some good softball and get used to watching it just coming out this spring.
So, and I told you, Coach, that this first, and I told everybody to start with, our goal for this show on a weekly basis is to talk everything Charlotte baseball for about half an hour a week, and that's what
not
we're
baseball, not baseball, softball.
Oh, I knew I was going to do that. Softball. We're going to talk Charlotte softball. We have gone way over that, but I told you, Coach, that's what was going to happen. This first show, we had so much to talk about.
Yeah.
We're an hour and 11 minutes going, and you know what? I don't even care. I'm having a great time. We are going to wrap this up, but I think we would be remiss if we wrapped up without giving you a chance to reflect a little bit on your very first preseason event that we had 2 weeks ago. Kevin and I had a chance to go to that, and it was phenomenal. And just like to give you a chance to reflect on that a little bit.
Yeah, gosh, that was a really fun night. When I went to Patrick Wheeler months ago, and hey, baseball's got the first pitch dinner. I really would like to do a preseason event for our fans and our family. And we kind of came up with the idea of a fan fest type of event. And it was an opportunity for you to come and meet our players and have conversations with them. And I thought it was awesome. I was so thankful to everyone that came out, and it was a good night. And we had our first annual cornhole tournament attached to that event. And we've got big plans for that in the future. So now that we've got a video board up here, we might hold the second annual cornhole tournament in the fall as a fall tailgating event to a football game on a Saturday. And we'll get the bracket up on the new video board. And we've just got a big vision for that. So I suspect it'll be really competitive again, like it was. But I thought it was awesome, and I'm really appreciative to everyone that helped make it happen, and then everyone that came out for that event. And we just want it to grow and get bigger every year. So be on the lookout again for that one for the next year.
I would say the tournament overall was very competitive, particularly as it got to the end. The first round, which was the only round I participated in, was not very competitive.
Well,
me and my daughter, we got destroyed.
Who was your partner?
My partner?
Yeah.
I played with my daughter, with Maddie.
That's right, Maddie. That's right.
We got destroyed by Mr. and Mrs. Beltran. Am I saying that right?
Yes, Gabe and Becky. Yeah, KB's parents. Yeah, they were pretty good. It was really fun to kind of see who was good at cornhole and who wasn't. I think people think all of our team, they should be good at cornhole, but some of them were not very good, and others, it surprised me that they were really competitive. So for those listening in the future, you can sign up for the cornhole tournament as a single player, and we will match you with a Niner gal and pair you up and get competitive in the tournament. So or you can pick your partner and sign up as a double. Either one works, but we'll probably keep that process for the second annual.
Well, that's the route
Maddie plans to do that next time.
Yeah.
Well, so
Kevin, who was your partner?
I had Maddie Sherrill.
Maddie Sherrill.
So
she's pretty good.
Yeah, we went 1-1. We ran into McKibben, the buzzsaw, and Savannah win in the second round, and I don't think McKibben should be able to play next year.
I knew when I put McKibben and Savannah Wynn in the same as a pair, I'm like, gosh, they might dominate the whole thing. But Gigi Barefoot and her dad went far. They were in the championship round.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that who put McKibben out?
I believe it was. I think it was Mr. Barefoot and Gigi. Yeah. Really
it was intense. It was intense. It was intense being under the lights. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and Jimmy Touchstone and his Jimmy Touchstone went deep in the tournament, and before he finally bowed out, and I think Kelly Weatherman's team won it, didn't they?
No,
that's not who won. Who did win?
Sarah Trexler, a 2000 alum of the program, and her husband won it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were really good. They looked like they played cornhole all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she was a student when we were in school. She was on the team when we were in school. So yeah. It's good. Our generation was representing in the cornhole tournament.
Yeah. However old that is, that's good to see. So, so we have what you're telling us is we have until the fall to up our games. Okay, that's fair enough.
A little time to practice.
Okay, folks. Let's wrap this up. Oh man, we blew through all our times. You know, if you've ever watched our baseball show before, we make Diamond Niner Report corporate mad all the time, and we don't care. So we're going to do it over here on the softball side too now. That's okay. It's all good. If you're new to us, check us out on social media. We're on Twitter, and we're providing more and more softball content as we go. Facebook and Instagram. But as I am fond of saying, never, ever, ever TikTok. Don't look for us on TikTok because we're not there and you won't ever see us there. But Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, check us out. We're trying to post content all the time. We'll definitely be posting some stuff from the Sioux this weekend. So give it a look and check it out. Guys, this is season 1, episode 1 in the books. There's a Diamond Niner Gals podcast now. How are we feeling about that?
I feel great about it. And before we go, I have to give credit where credit is due. When we were discussing the name, so Niner Gals came from a dear friend of mine, a really big supporter of ours, and also in our Niner family, Coach Toby Bicknell. So I have to give Toby credit for the Niner Gals tag. And so when you and I were discussing what should we call this podcast, and I was like, hey, like Diamond Niner Gals podcast, that sounds awesome. So that originated from Toby Bicknell. I have to give credit where credit is due.
You did a great job, Toby, because as soon as those words came out of your mouth, I was like, yeah, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, folks, that's it for us. We're out of here. By the time we see you next week, we'll have results to talk about. We'll have games played. We can get in here and break down the results from the Charlotte Invitational. We can't wait to get back to you. So for Kevin, for producer Brad, for Coach Chastain, this has been Nick. Thanks for joining us tonight, and go Niners. See you at the Sioux.
Go Niners.